It's gonna be a long weekend.
Another one just like the last. Lately my life's been kinda hazy, 2 steps over the line. Thoughts in my mind have gone kinda crazy, or maybe I'm doing just fine.
Welcome to Season 3 of Just the Beer Talking, a New Brunswick craft beer appreciation podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Corey.
It's gonna be a long weekend, another one just like the last. Yeah, it's gonna be a long weekend, trying to get rid of my past.
Okay. Oh boy. This is Shawn Corey here from Just the Beer Talking. Thanks for tuning in. We're visiting Sussex today. Dairy town. Is it still a dairy town?
It still is a dairy town, yes.
Okay, great. All right, and we're here at well, we're not at the tap room. We're at the at where you're brewing the beer for Sussex Ale Works in Sussex. And we, as a matter of fact, have the, now did you call it an ale master, brew master?
I said Ale Smith.
Ale Smith.
Ale Smith.
Okay, we're here with the Ale Smith from Sussex Ale Works, Rick. And thanks, Rick, for joining us.
Well, thank you, Shawn, for having me and coming to our brewery today.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure, believe you me. Yeah, we're going to spend the day here. We're going to chat with Rick for a while. We're going to head over to the brewery for a little spell. This evening, I'm going to go there and play some music. And look, these are the days that you want to have ahead of you. So very happy to be here. Now, Rick, so how long has Sussex Ale Works roughly been open?
So Sussex Ale Works was established in October of 2018. The project was started earlier than that. The construction started August 2018. The doors opened at 590B Main Street, Sussex on October 19th, 2018. So it's a little over 5 years now, going on 6 years.
Oh, man. Okay, that's a pretty good stretch. And if folks haven't been there or here to Sussex Ale Works, it is on Main Street, right?
That's correct. Our tap room is on Main Street.
Yeah.
We have 2 breweries. One is located on location at 597B,
okay,
which is our pilot system, our OG brewery, as we call it. And then we have another brewery, which is basically a production facility where I spend most of my waking hours here now at 165 St. George Street, Sussex.
Well, it's good to stay busy, Rick.
I have no problem with that.
Well, that makes one of us, because I have very little to do, really. I'm on the cusp of becoming some sort of man of leisure, I think.
That's not a bad thing. I hope to get to that level someday myself. So.
Well, I hope so too. And we're drinking some Sussex beer here. So I'm having the Lovin' a Canoe, which is a lagered ale. It's a light lagered ale, 3.8%. And what are you drinking, Rick?
I'm drinking the Bay Tripping Blonde. So it was originally the Sussex Blonde, and we decided to, because we wanted to incorporate the Bay of Fundy into our label as well as the name. We decided to call it the Bay Trippin' Blonde.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Makes me think of the Beatles song, Day Tripper.
Yeah. That's my daughter on the can there,
Oh.
on the back sides.
Now, you guys, okay, so first I'm going to say you guys have some of the best can art in New Brunswick.
Thank you.
It's very cool. If folks haven't seen it, one of the ones I love is you've got a painting, I guess, of John Prine with his guitar in a bathtub.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's for one of your flagship beers, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's for half an enchilada IPA. And there's always a story of some sort to go along with our beers and then the art and everything. So if you indulge me here, I'll tell you the story.
Please, thank you.
So the half an enchilada IPA was first brewed back in just around the start of COVID. And it was first kegged on the day that John Prine passed away. Very sad day in the music world, for sure.
Absolutely.
So we decided to pay homage to Mr. Prine and call it Half an Enchilada, a bit of a play on words from his song with the lyrics, half an inch of water and you think you're going to die. And so we call it half an enchilada because he talks in certain concerts about people asking him to play the half an enchilada song or the happy enchilada song. So anyway, that's why we called it that, and that's why they kind of morphed from there into the half an enchilada IPA. It's became so popular that actually sometimes that can label has made it onto the official John Prine website, and we get orders from Hawaii, southern states, Alaska for our beer. Obviously, unpasteurized product, pretty hard to ship it across the world, halfway across the world. But we do. My wife has come up with a solution to that, and she has made little sticker magnets with the can labels on them, and she sent them off to any people that request it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love. I think my favorite John Prine. Well, it's hard to pick one because they're all so good, but I love Please Don't Bury Me. It's just so funny. Please don't bury me down in the cold, cold ground.
Yeah.
I'd rather have them cut me up and pass me all around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
My dad, Al Corey, was a big country music fan, and he loved John Prine as well. And I can remember as a kid him singing that song, and it's a great tune. So Rick, you've how long have you been brewing beer? Like, just from talking to you here, I can tell that you're super knowledgeable. So, how long have you been kind of at this?
Well, I've been brewing some sort of alcohol liquor since my teenage years, not out of interest, but of lack of money. So my friends back in the day, we had started out raiding our uncle's swish barrel, which was a form of brewing, but not really. It was just a way of making alcohol out of an old whiskey barrel or whatever by putting water into it. Anyway, we did that for a summer, and then we ended up trying to brew our own beer. So I'm talking, this is back 1980, 84, 85, era. So. Mm-hmm. I do have a background in it. Over the years, I've done a little bit of distillation, wine making, beer making, but it's really the beer making that really stuck with me, because I am a real geek when it comes to the chemistry involved in beer making. Mm. So I just love the chemistry. It's unbelievable.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and I want to love the chemistry, Rick, but
you have to embrace the chemistry.
I don't.
You gotta love it.
I don't know if I'm smart enough. But I'm working on it.
It's a matter of interest. It's a matter of interest,
Okay,
because
maybe.
if you have the interest, you have the ability to learn. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that's very generous of you. Thank you. I might have to trade my usual co-host, Michael, for you, Rick. You're much nicer, much more complimentary. So, Michael, if you're listening, watch out.
Well, I don't really have room right at the moment for another day job, but maybe I'll keep it in mind for the future there if the offer's still open. So.
Well, Rick, I can tell you, like, we're making big money doing this podcast.
Oh well, that's what I'm in it for.
Big money.
You ask any brewer, they're in it for the big money. They'll tell you, oh yeah, I'll tell you, yeah, big money.
Well, it's a passion project, right?
Absolutely.
And we're awful glad that you're making the beer, and I'm just loving this beer. By the way, this loving a Canoe. This is something that, on a really hot day, I could see drinking quite a few of these. It's 3.8%.
3.8% ABV, and a very, very lowly hopped beer too. seven IBUs. So
right,
yeah,
that is pretty low.
Basically, we just wave the hop over top of the boil kettle, and that's about it. So yeah.
Well, it's working for me. All right. Well, now over at the tap room, do you have you probably have certain beer that people buy a lot of? Like almost every brewery has not only a flagship beer, but maybe a handful of styles that people just seem to always buy. Mm-hmm. Aside from the half an enchilada, do you have another beer or two that you would consider to be kind of the beer that people come to Sussex Ale Works for? I know you have a lot of different beers,
we
so
do,
I'm not, and I know they're all good because I think I've sampled them all pretty much. But ones that you think of when you think, okay.
My go-to when I go in for a beer at my own pub, which is very rare because I spend more time making beer than I do drinking beer. But
right.
My go-to is usually the Piccadilly Pale Ale, which is our flagship pale ale. It's been and we had changed that beer over time to suit our customers' needs, and that's what it really is all about at Sussex Ale Works. The customer will tell you what they want and what they expect out of your beers. If you listen to them, and you can make small changes to the beers, which we have over time, and it suits our customers' needs to the point that it's the best seller. The Piccadilly Pale Pale Ale is our best seller. I would say second in place would be our honorable member Red Ale. Mm-hmm. Okay, mm-hmm. And it's a very nice malty red ale. Very English style oriented, Maris Otter in base grains and Fuggle hops. So very English hops, English grains involved in that one. So it's.
I'm gonna have one of those tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I've had that one.
You haven't had that one?
No, I don't think so.
My, that's
I know.
It is a good red. It is a good red. Slightly on the sweet side, for ales, but it is quite malty and it can be refreshing. We sell. It's funny because I look at the sales of the beers over seasons. The lighter beers, what everybody gravitates towards in the summertime and the wintertime. Everybody's looking for the darker beers, the stouts, the red ales, the brown ales, that kind of thing. So we do have a seasonal options always available. So.
Yeah, it's funny about beer and seasons, eh? Like it really is true that certain beers are suited to different seasons. And Michael, my co-host on this podcast, he's the guy who's less interesting. In case you are wondering,
I wondered.
I'm kind of we let him record some episodes once in a while, Rick, but just to it's more out of sympathy than anything. But
Poor Michael.
Yeah, poor Michael.
Poor Michael.
It's tough. It's tough. And he's, to add insult to injury, he's only about 4 feet tall. So, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. I didn't take a ruler to him or anything. I just know that when he's behind the bar, sometimes I lose sight of him.
Poor smallish Michael.
Yeah,
So,
it's
poor
sad.
Michael.
It's sad. He'll appreciate though your sympathy.
I'm sure he will. I'll be looking over my shoulder the next week here. So. Yeah.
And now, see, I got so involved in. Oh yes, we're talking about seasons. Yeah, back
yes.
to the beer here.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I mean, it depends on your mood too. Like a stout, I mean, I could drink a stout anytime, I think, but. And I've seen, like in St. Andrews, where we live, I've seen people ordering stouts just in the last few days, like
Absolutely.
at the brewery.
Yep.
You know, it's been hot, but they just like the stout. And
There are the hardcore true stout drinkers that will drink stout in the middle of the hottest day in summer, the most humid weather ever, and they will drink the stout and they will drink it very happily.
Yeah.
We got a nice stout at Sussex Ale Works. You know, and there's a lot of them out there too. I mean, the other breweries make very fine products. Ours is a coffee milk stout with local coffee.
Yes.
And local rum from the distillery too as well. So
Yes, and I've had that, and it's that stout, and it's very good. And I've been to the distillery here too. Is it just called Sussex Distillery?
Sussex Craft Distillery, yes.
Sussex Craft Distillery.
Yeah.
Seems to me that I bought some kind of butterscotch liqueur there that I was pouring over ice cream.
Yeah, they make a lot of different liqueurs, some very good ones. Some of their like the rum that I use in the stout. I use the rum as to extract the coffee flavor from the coffee, as a way of not oxidizing the coffee, as far as like brewing it as a coffee with hot water. You know, you could add oxygen to it, where if you add alcohol to it, the oxygen levels are so much lower. So you make a tincture with the coffee and the alcohol, and then that's added to the beer post fermentation into the bright tank.
Okay.
Yeah, and it turns out really, really well. So.
And is that local coffee? That's from
Piccadilly Coffee.
Piccadilly, yeah. So
Piccadilly
I've been there
Coffee
too. Yeah.
Excellent coffee.
Yeah.
Very.
And what's so Piccadilly? What's the reference to? Is it something local here?
It is.
Oh.
So Piccadilly is an area in Sussex. It is. Oh, geez. Now, direction-wise, well, I mean, everybody knows Sussex Golf and Curling Club. That's in the Piccadilly area.
Okay.
And if you look at our can of Piccadilly Pale Ale, it's actually the fairway, the number one fairway of the golf course. You're looking straight down the number one. So yeah, it's so the Piccadilly Pale Ale was born of the thought of the Golf and Country Club in mind, where I spent many a days in my youth as a caddy for my aunt, who was quite a golfer back in the day, and I think she still is. She still golfs. So, but I was the caddy. So yeah.
So let's see. So Rick was a caddy. He started brewing at 12 years old.
Yeah. I need
so
for
we're getting
alcohol. I need for alcohol.
We're getting the whole history here.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever worry that like your beer is too good and it's making the other breweries feel bad by comparison?
Sometimes I feel inadequate to the other breweries' beers because they're so good. Okay. I gotta.
Very humble of you.
It's always an effort to keep up with the other breweries. I mean, because they set the bar so high. But yeah, I mean, listen, we all work hard at our product. We're all striving to improve on our products and make our beer the best that we can make it. That's the goal. So.
And it's a community, right?
Absolutely.
I get that, yeah. We've seen that a lot when we've been visiting breweries.
We got a name for it. It's called Coopetition. So I mean, if Luke McGregor from Gridiron Brewing needs a bag of 2-row in Hampton, and I got it, I say, come pick it up, Luke. If I need some USO5 yeast or whatever, Luke has it. I'll go down and pick it up. I mean, we trade back and forth like that, and we always replace, obviously. But you know, it is a community. And really, why would we see each other as competition if we're selling our product as much as we make? You know, we're really, you know, for this time of year we're at full capacity. So
Yeah.
now in the wintertime, not so much. So we got to change that up.
Yeah. I love drinking beer in the winter. It's
Oh, me too. It's my favorite pastime.
Me too. Funny coincidence.
Oh, like-minded, eh? So, yeah.
I think we are.
Yeah.
I think we are. Great. Okay. Well, now in the brewery, I've noticed that you have these little wooden figurines.
Okay. Yeah.
So if anyone has not been to Sussex Ale Works, first of all, what are you waiting for? You should get down here.
So.
But I noticed
yeah,
those.
Yeah, for sure.
And
yeah.
they're like little wooden. They're figurines. They're people.
They're effigies.
Effigies. Okay.
Of real people.
Okay. And you use them to. They're on the taps.
Yep.
And then, as I recall, you have a little shelf there with
Absolutely,
all
yep.
kinds of them.
Yep.
Can you, like, I love that. I noticed it the first time we went to the tap room. Really interesting. How did that come about?
So our number one customer through the doors back in 2018 was a fellow by the name of Jason Vale. And Jason had a passion for craft beer back then, and he was so excited that we were opening a craft brewery in Sussex that he actually was the first one. He camped out outside for that whole day, and he was going to make sure he was the first one through the door, and he was. And Jason still frequents our brewery today. Now Jason is he works at a nursery here in Sussex, working with plants, but he's also a folk artist. So he does carvings, and that's how it started. He did some carvings for us for some tap handles. We originally had our own idea of tap handles, but it just kind of morphed into he started carving the bar staff, who was behind the bar, and he'd bring it in, and we fixed it to a little collet that went onto the bar hand or the tap handle, and that's how it all started. So yeah, we have actually effigies of real people on every one of our taps. Now we switch it up and we change it from time to time. I'm on there and on some of them, but I may not be on all the time, right? So
come to think of it, I recall seeing a little wooden figurine that looks a lot like you.
Like me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this one, had glasses and a little cap there, yeah. So yeah, it was.
I think that's so cool. Man.
It is, and it's
really
all about.
great.
And Jason has had more requests, and his Facebook site is Arthur Vale Folk Art on Facebook, and you can go there and send him a picture of someone you want carved, and he can carve you a little figurine, and for the price of a couple of beer, you can probably get one done for yourself.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think what we'll try to do is we'll try to post a link in the show notes for the podcast, so that people, if they're curious, they can check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Rick, usually at this point we do. Oh, there's a story I want you to tell. But
I know the one you want to hear.
Before we get to that, I'll just let you know that after the story, we'll do. We have a little questionnaire that we give brewers. We switch it up quite a bit depending on the brewery, but so that people don't catch on completely to what questions we're going to ask. But before we get into that, you were telling me about this beer, this lagered ale, Love in a Canoe. And folks can't see it here, but the can, as I've said before, the can art here is fantastic, and I just love this. You have the colored, the multicolored balloon, the air balloon.
Yeah.
Which you have a big festival here, right? In
We do.
Sussex, where,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
It is, and it's a great weekend. There's a couple of great weekends on in August, September. Obviously, the giant flea market, and then the balloon festival in the second week of September. So on this can of it's called Love in a Canoe. There's a hot air balloon. And it's actually not just a random balloon. It's the balloon that my wife and I, Elena, we crew for the owner of that balloon. He'll call us the night before and say, "I want to fly in the morning," and so we chase his balloon. We get him up in the air and we chase his balloon, and we retrieve him after his flight. And it's just a great pastime, here in Sussex, because we do have some of the calmest weather at 6 in the morning and 6 at night, and that's the reason for the festival, because we do we're in a valley, and we're very, very calm winds at those particular times of day.
Oh.
Now the Love in a Canoe, you'll see the canoes on the lake. That is actually a picture of Mud Lake, which is just outside of Sussex here, and there was a canoe. My wife took that picture some time ago, and we had Courtney from Mum's Tattoo shop here in Sussex that she does all our artwork for our cans, and she has done them all. She's done the John Prine, the Piccadilly, the Bay Trip and Blonde, the Honorable Member Red. All our artwork is done by her, and she's a great artist.
Oh, that's amazing! I should try to meet her.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking for a tattoo, Mum's Tattoo.
Okay.
Well, absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
I don't have one, but I've thought many times of getting
why not?
one.
You're in Sussex.
I
Get a tattoo, go for a balloon ride, right?
Things to do while you're in Sussex.
That's it. And have some beer too. Maybe you have the beer, get a tattoo, and then go on a balloon ride. How about that?
I think I can accommodate all these.
There you go.
Yeah, jobs.
So you wanted to know about the name of Love in a Canoe?
Because it's a great name. Love in a Canoe.
Yeah.
It's
So
very
I'm going to enlighten you on this. So
okay.
This goes back to about 78, which I was 10 years old.
And hey, Rick, this is where we tell our listeners, if you have your 9-year-olds listening, because we get a lot of 9-year-olds listening to the beer podcast, as you can imagine.
Why wouldn't they? I started brewing at 11. So.
I know you did. I know. So I mean, really, it's our demographic. But
right.
If you do have your 9-year-old in the room at the moment, this story could be considered a little risque, so you could ask them to go out and play for a minute. All right, carry on. Rick.
Okay, so what they say here, 1978, I was 10 years old. I was at my grandparents' place on St. George Street here in Sussex, where I do live now. I live in the family home. My grandfather, who was a Second World War veteran, he was up near retirement age at that time, and he had spent some hard years, over six hard years in Europe during the Second World War, and he came back and he had affinity for drinking beer, and a lot of beer, especially on Saturday and Sunday morning. So the family was hesitant to feed him heavy alcohols during the Christmas season. So this one Christmas, we're up at the grandparents' place. My aunt comes over with a drink, and she hands it to my grandfather, and she said, "How's that, Dad?" And he takes a drink out of it, and he looks at her, and he says, "Oh, that's Love in a Canoe, Love in a Canoe." And she was happy. She walked away. She was so happy. And I heard my mother came by with a drink for my dad, or for my grandfather in a couple hours, and same thing, Love in a Canoe, Love in a Canoe. So I asked my father, I said, who was sitting next to me, I said, "Dad, what's Love in a Canoe?" And he said, "Shut up, Rick, shut up." And I said, "I'll tell you later." He said, "I'll tell you later." And I was like, I was curious. I was a curious kid, and I was relentless, obviously. Anyway, I kept asking him, and finally he looked at me square in the eye, and he said, "It's fucking near water." and which, and I always remembered that. I could always remember that what he said, and so when I made this 3.8% beer, which some brewers are hesitant to make a 3.8% beer, but I thought about Love in a Canoe, and I thought, yeah, that's a perfect name for that beer.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's that's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. Sorry. I hope the little kids didn't hear that.
Oh,
So,
there.
Yeah.
Look, most times there are far too many F-bombs in our podcast. It comes all from us, Rick. So don't worry about that one bit. It's a delicious beer.
Well, thank you.
I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very easy drinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really born out of the need for a sessionable type of beer, where you can a lot of our beers are a little bit higher gravity. Something you can drink, enjoy, and still function. So.
For sure. It's still got lots of flavor though.
Nope.
It's still very flavorful and
Thank you.
yeah, it's delicious. Reminds me of a beer from. Do you know the folks down at Tatamagouche Brewing?
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Great people.
Yeah.
And they had, so we go every year to the Big Axe Craft Beer Fest in Nakwik.
Yes.
Just an awesome festival. But what happens, of course, is you have 4 hours of unlimited samples. It's usually the second weekend in July, so it's often quite hot. And you can get into a bit of a spot there after a while. And so I happened across the Tatamagouche tent, and they were pouring Decorum that day, which is their lager that is 2.9.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick, I think it saved my life that day.
Yes. Yeah,
But it was a
bring some sensibility back into your life, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Our co-host, the diminutive fellow I was telling you about, Michael,
Yes.
he calls it chainsaw beer. He says you could drink it and still operate a chainsaw. Now, I don't know if you should do that. Really.
I don't know if I would.
We have very high-powered lawyers,
Yeah.
Rick, so I can say pretty much anything.
Yeah. Okay.
We just take a small portion of the profits from just the beer talking to pay the lawyers.
We recommend not operating any motorized equipment with our beer, with the consumption of our beers. Just I think maybe
There.
I need a disclaimer on my can.
So Rick is on record as saying that. Now Michael Head says that Decorum and probably Love in a Canoe is chainsaw beer. You'll have to speak to Michael about that to clarify. Rick, if you are ready, I'll give you the just the beer talking questionnaire.
Let's do it.
All right. So these are very serious questions. Their purpose is to provide the maximum information to our knowledge-hungry fan base.
Okay.
All right. So no pressure, but some of these questions are tough.
So, can I pass if I don't have
you
an
can
answer?
pass.
Okay,
yeah, you can say
okay.
no. I don't. No. Rewrite that question. We appreciate the feedback. Okay, so question number one, the Just the Beer Talking questionnaire for our friend Rick here from Sussex Ale Works in Sussex, New Brunswick. The Ale Smith. By the way, what's the difference between an alesmith and a brewmaster?
Okay, so a brewmaster would have gone to some sort of formal training, university, college, where an alesmith would have trained under some other tutelage from a qualified brewer. Much the same as a blacksmith or a apprentice blacksmith would have learned from the seasoned blacksmith. So if you look at our logo, it's actually a blacksmith hammering the grains into beer. So I don't consider myself a brew master.
Yep.
Because I've never actually had any formal training, but it's just the love of the learning of the beer and working with some of the great brewers in New Brunswick, like the Holy Whale Brewing Company in Alma, where I started my commercial brewing.
Oh, you did?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
and
really like that tap room.
Yeah. They're great guys.
It's lovely in an old church there.
Yep, absolutely.
Right?
And this is an old church too, believe it or not, where we're sitting right now.
This is really
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, that kind of makes sense, actually. Come to think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been to Holy Whale, and as a matter of fact, my wife's name is Alma.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
Interesting.
But it's a beautiful tap room. Old churches make great tap rooms.
They do, and the more you look around, the more breweries, craft breweries that you see. Chances are they're in some sort of an old church of some sort.
That's amazing.
You know? It's a great repurposing. I think it is, and if God didn't like it, I think He would have struck me dead, a long time ago while I was trying to build it. So.
You and me both.
There you go. Well, there's other things He could have struck me dead for, I guess.
you and me both.
Okay.
All right. So the beer talking questionnaire then. Question number 1 for our friend Rick Alesmith at Sussex Ale Works. Question number 1. Rick, is your beer any good?
It's as good as my customers think it is. Can I elaborate on that?
Sure. Oh, yeah, of course.
I took a marketing course during COVID.
By the way, the answer is yes. Your beer is very good.
Well, my customers think it's very good. So,
Okay.
So yes.
I'm one of them.
Yes. So I took a marketing course during COVID, and I always thought my brand was what I thought about my beer or what I thought about my business, but it's not. It's what my customers think about my business and how they perceive my business to be. And if they perceive my business to be a great place to go get drunk, well, that's what it is. But that's not what we were trying to achieve. We were trying to achieve a space for a safe, comfortable space for people to enjoy a quality product, and everyone welcome. Yeah. Everyone.
Yeah.
So there's your question. There's your answer.
That's a great answer. I can vouch for the fact that your tap room is incredibly welcoming. I might be. So this is going to spoil my last question, but I'll just say it now because I think your tap room is one of the most welcoming tap rooms in New Brunswick. I really do. I just think your staff is excellent. The atmosphere in the brewery is great. The folks who frequent your brewery are super friendly. The couple of times that I've been there, honestly, I felt like I had been there 100 times. And that speaks volumes. Like, it's a really great tap room to visit. I mean that, Rick. It's
well, I
really
appreciate
nice.
that, and really that makes me feel really, really good because that's what we've absolutely always tried to achieve. And there is some effort obviously involved in it from my staff. I memean, they're great staff, and they attract the customers. They make customers feel welcome, it's hard to get that first craft, the first person that's ever tried craft beer, or they've never tried craft beer before, to get them through the door without feeling too intimidated. That's the thing. It's the intimidation of, I don't know what this is. I don't know if I'll like it or whatever, And our staff really does a great job at making people feel welcome, and it's all about the education of the product, right? So
I agree, and that's what we're hoping to do too with the podcast. So I get that. Okay, so question number 2.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite hop, like just a personal favorite, like something that you keep going back to, that you really love to use when it's appropriate and when you can? Doesn't have to be your number one favorite, but one of your favorites.
It's not the number one hop, but I mean it's really the workhorse of the hops that we've had. The Cascade hop, obviously, everybody knows the Cascade hop. People are very familiar with it. We use it as basically a flavor and aroma hop, and not so much a bittering hop up front. We have other great hops for that. It's a fairly lower alpha acid hop there, so not as strong as some of the others. But it really is. It's got that nice citrusy kind of a flavors to it, and it's very, very recognizable. So in craft beer.
I love that hop. And is it true that so our listeners will know that I know very little about beer. However, I am learning a little bit, and just enough to be dangerous. And is it true then that so you can put the hop in at different points, the brewing process, right?
Yeah.
And when you put it in early, that's for the bitterness?
Absolutely, yeah.
And at the end, it's for aroma.
Aroma. So
Okay.
you have the like any time during the you can take the same hop, and if you introduced it at the beginning of the boil, you're going to get the isomerization, just a technical scientific term that they call for the conversion of the lupulin that's in the hops to IBUs and bitterness units. So if you add it at the very beginning, you're going to get the more bitterness out of that hop. If you add it in the middle of the boil, you're going to get more flavor from it. And at the end, if you drop it in just before you flame out on the boil kettle, then you're going to end up with more aroma and more flavor. So your nose is going to pick it up first, and then your flavor, and then you're going to say, wow, that's a really bitter beer too. But it's not always about the bitterness. Like we've had beers where that really say like an English bitter. I made a English bitter called English War Bride after my grandmother, who was also very bitter. But she
Well, we're all a little bitter sometimes.
It was a strong English ale that was bitter, just like her. And but it was bitter up front, and not all that bitter actually. A bitter is not really meant to be bitter, just named bitter, right?
Right,
So,
right.
So,
I know people sometimes. I think people associate it with something negative, right? They're like, "Oh, bitter, that's not good." But it helps balance out the other elements of the beer, right?
The sweetness, the hops, then that's the key to the beer, the craft beer, especially where you have the sweetness and the maltiness that needs to balance with the hoppiness.
Yeah.
So I was never really a big fan of session beers where you have this beer that's super, super hoppy but very, very low ABV.
Right.
And listen, some of them are delicious, don't get me wrong, but it's really unbalanced. So if you have a beer that's, say, 70 IBUs, well, that beer should probably be, to me, about a 7% ABV beer, and with the maltiness should be somewhat balanced.
That makes sense, because it always seems to me that the higher ABV, you get that additional sweetness, right?
You can, yeah.
You don't have to,
especially in the ales. For
yes,
sure. And Belgians always sweet, always strong, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, next question in the questionnaire. So we're in Sussex, and so do you make ginger ale, Rick?
My great uncle did. He was part owner in Sussex Mineral Springs back in the day before he went to the. Between the time that he fought in the Boer War and the First World War, he was part owner of Sussex Mineral Springs. He made ginger ale.
Is that right?
Yeah. I don't make ginger ale. I sell ginger ale at my pub. So if you're looking for Sussex Golden Ginger Ale, we do have cans of Sussex Golden Ginger Ale for sale at our pub. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, next question. So stouts, Irish stout or milk stout?
Milk stout.
That's what you prefer?
Hands down.
Oh yeah.
Hands
Why?
down.
Why?
I worked in Africa for 2 years in Tanzania, and you know there was a lot of beer drinking going on there, and there was a beer named Castle Milk Stout, and it came in a 500 milliliter bottle, and it cost $1 American to buy. And it was the only one that they had left at the commissary that night when I went to buy. So I took them back to the room. I drank the milk stouts, and I fell in love with milk stouts at that point. Yeah, when I was working in Tanzania. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I don't blame you. I mean,
Yeah.
milk stout is.
Well, you need to drink some beer over there. That's for sure. You know, you drink
I
the.
expect so.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it was a great beer. It really, and it still would be. I'd love to have another one. So.
Oh.
Yep, milk stout.
Well, it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. You have a clear preference there.
Absolutely.
So that's
Yeah.
it. Okay. Well, in that spirit, next question: Lennon or McCartney?
Wow.
Okay.
McCartney. I'd say McCartney.
Okay.
I got to say McCartney.
Okay. Well, you answered correctly.
Oh, did I? Oh, perfect. What's your reasoning behind that?
Correct. And I'm a teacher,
Okay.
Rick, so I
Okay.
should know the difference between a correct answer and an incorrect answer.
Okay.
For example, Michael Head might say Lennon.
Oh.
Yeah, he'd be wrong. Simon Chiswell, another fellow on the podcast, he'd probably say Lennon. He'd also be wrong. But you're right, Rick. You're right. So it's nice to be in the company of someone who has good sense. My reason? I don't know. I'm just a McCartney guy. I like John Lennon too. I love all the Beatles, but McCartney. I'm a McCartney guy. Melody. You know, he's a genius with melody, and I
And a
love
bassist too, and the bassists are cool.
incredible bass player.
Yeah.
And I love his 70s stuff, Wings. And
Yeah.
I'm a big McCartney guy.
And to tell you the truth, that's why I said McCartney over Lennon. Nothing against John Lennon. He just never had the chance to start his own band and start another one. I mean, other than him and Yoko, he really didn't have much going on or never had the opportunity to like Paul McCartney did, right? So
Yeah.
and Paul McCartney's still doing it. So
He's still doing it,
yeah,
man. So
yeah,
rock on, Paul McCartney.
yeah.
Okay, well, I knew you were a knowledgeable
Oh,
fellow.
now you're just trying to pump my tires here. What's going on here?
Well, I'm just gearing up for the last question,
Okay,
Rick.
all right, lay it on me.
So last question in the Just the Beer Talking survey questionnaire for our friend here, Rick from Sussex Ale Works. Rick, what time is it?
I have no idea.
Me neither. It's 5 to 4, Rick.
5 to 4.
I think that means, well, it's beer time, but we've already been doing that.
Well, it's time for another beer. I guess what you're saying.
I I think it's funny because you got the McCartney question right, and you also seem to be reading my mind. Also, I have a show, you see, to play at your wonderful tap room. Now, it's not till 7 o'clock, but I'm kind of an old fellow. It takes me a while
Okay.
to get around.
All right.
My wife tells me I drive like an old man, and my answer to that is, I am an old man. Therefore, I'm driving like one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Rick,
don't be ashamed of being an old man.
I won't.
Every young man will be an old man eventually.
here's hoping.
Yeah, and you have to set the example, right? So
Oh,
how it's supposed to be done.
there's no question in my mind, Rick, that I am setting an example.
An example, maybe not the example.
I don't know how I would qualify, how I would assess that example, but I think, Rick, you are setting a fantastic example.
Well, I tried. Thank you.
In the beer industry in New Brunswick by making some of our finest brews, and I'm so grateful that you're doing that, Rick, and very grateful for Sussex Ale Works, and quite pleased, I must say, to be sitting here talking with you. So
Thank you. It was a pleasure, for sure.
Thanks, Rick, and thanks for taking the time. And let's do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
And let's drink some more beer, shall
Let's
we?
do it.
All right,
All
man.
right.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having a beer with us. Our theme song, Long Weekend, is written by Shawn Corey and performed by Tuckersfield. Stay hoppy.
Try to get rid